She gave one niece a birthday gift and completely ignored the other, but the reason why will surprise you. 3 years of silence, and now a birthday is coming up, and this woman is sitting there genuinely wondering if she owes a gift to someone who made it very clear they do not want a relationship with her. That tension right there, the pull between fairness and reality, is exactly what this story is about. And honestly, the more you dig into the details, the more you realize this is so much more complicated than just who gets a present and who does not. So let me set the scene for you. Our narrator is a 46-year-old woman with, and I want you to really sit with this number, over 27 nibblings. 27. Between her and her husband there are 12 siblings total, which means family gatherings at their house must feel like running a small daycare and a college orientation at the same time. The noise alone must be something else, the overlapping conversations, the different ages and generations all colliding in one space, the logistical weight of just keeping track of who needs what. With that many kids in the extended family, there is simply no version of reality where she can maintain a deep personal relationship with every single one of them. That is just math. That is just life. And so naturally, the relationships that have developed are the ones that both sides have actually put effort into. The ones where someone picked up the phone, or suggested a plan, or simply showed up repeatedly until showing up became a habit. Now here is where it gets interesting. 2 of those nibblings live in her city. 2 sisters, close in age, and yet the contrast between her relationships with them could not be more different. The 21-year-old has actively built a relationship with her aunt. They go to craft fairs together, they do art projects, they take weekend trips, they go to movies and art classes. Picture what that actually looks like. 2 people wandering through booths of handmade jewelry and painted ceramics on a Saturday morning, the aunt watching her niece light up over something that catches her eye, the easy kind of conversation that only exists between people who genuinely enjoy each other's company. This is not a niece who occasionally texts on holidays. This is a young woman who genuinely wants her aunt in her life and shows up consistently, repeatedly, and without being asked to prove it. That kind of intentional, chosen connection is rare and precious, and it clearly means a great deal to our narrator, not just as a family tie but as a real friendship between 2 people who have decided to keep choosing each other. The 19-year-old, on the other hand, requested low contact almost 3 years ago. And our narrator did not just go along with it passively, she actually handled it with a lot of grace. She told the 19-year-old that the door would always be open if she ever wanted a relationship. She still sends birthday messages. She still sends holiday greetings. She has kept a quiet, respectful presence on social media without forcing herself into the girl's life. Think about what that takes emotionally. To write a birthday message year after year knowing it will likely go unanswered, to keep your tone warm and unhurt and genuinely open even when the silence on the other end has stretched for nearly 3 years. That is not abandonment, that is dignity. That is someone who understands that love sometimes means giving people space even when it hurts, even when part of you is still grieving the closeness that used to be there. The context behind the distance matters here too, because it adds a layer of sadness to the whole situation. The 19-year-old is the daughter of a messy parental divorce, and our narrator is the sister of the dad, who she is now no contact with. So this young woman has been navigating the fallout of her parents splitting up, and in doing so, she made a choice to step back from the family members connected to her father. You can imagine how overwhelming that must have been for a teenager, the ground shifting beneath her, loyalties feeling impossible, and the simplest solution being to just quietly withdraw from the side of the family that reminded her of the pain. That is an understandable response from someone dealing with an overwhelming situation. It does not make the distance less painful for the people on the other end of it, but it makes it make sense. Our narrator also mentions something significant about the history she has with both girls. Back when they were school-aged, she used to care for them 5 to 7 days a week. 5 to 7 days a week. That is not a casual aunt who shows up at Christmas and hands out cards. That is someone who was there for the ordinary Tuesday mornings, the after-school snacks, the homework struggles, the small everyday moments that actually make up a childhood. She knew their routines, their moods, their little quirks. She was a constant presence in their lives, almost like a second parent in terms of time and involvement. Then the girl's father fired her, and later the parents divorced, and everything changed seemingly overnight. So there is a whole backstory of deep closeness and then sudden loss baked into this situation, a grief that probably never fully got processed because family upheaval does not leave a lot of room for quiet reflection. The relationship with the 21-year-old is in some ways a rekindling of something that used to exist, a thread that got dropped and then slowly, carefully picked back up again. While the relationship with the 19-year-old has gone quiet in the aftermath of all that family upheaval, still suspended somewhere between what was and what might one day be again. And here is where our narrator's autistic brain kicks in and starts running fairness calculations at full speed, because the question she is asking is whether it is wrong to give one niece a gift and not the other. Her sense of fairness is overwhelming her, pulling at her conscience, making her second-guess something that most people might not even pause over. And I think that deserves some real examination, because fairness is one of those concepts that sounds simple until you actually try to apply it to real human relationships, and then it gets complicated fast. Is fairness giving everyone the same thing regardless of context, or is fairness responding to people in ways that match the actual relationship you have with them? Let me push on that question for a second, because I think it is the heart of the whole thing. If our narrator gave identical gifts to both nieces, what would that actually communicate? To the 21-year-old, it might feel like her aunt does not really see her, does not really recognize the specific bond they have built together, because the gift would be no different than what a stranger got. It would flatten 3 years of craft fairs and weekend trips and genuine shared time into something generic and interchangeable. To the 19-year-old, an unsolicited gift might actually feel like a boundary violation, a disruption of the low-contact arrangement she herself requested. It could land not as warmth but as pressure, arriving on her doorstep like an obligation she never asked for. So in trying to be equally fair to both, the narrator might actually end up doing a disservice to both. Real fairness in relationships is not arithmetic. It is not about making sure the numbers balance. It is about responding to people with honesty and in proportion to what actually exists between you. You would not give your closest friend and a coworker you barely know the same birthday gift and call that fair. The nature of the relationship changes what appropriate looks like. And in this case, the nature of the two relationships could not be more different, even though the two girls are sisters, even though they are close in age, even though they once had the same aunt looking after them every single day of the week. I also want to point out something that says a lot about who our narrator is as a person. She is not asking this question because she is trying to be mean to the 19-year-old, or because she has written her off, or because she has some kind of grudge she is quietly nursing. She is asking because she genuinely cares about doing the right thing, because her conscience will not let her act without examining her own motivations first. The fact that she still sends birthday messages and holiday wishes to a niece who has requested low contact, year after year, without any expectation of a reply and apparently without resentment either, tells you everything about her character. She is not bitter. She is not petty. She is just trying to navigate a genuinely complicated family situation with as much integrity as she can, in a family landscape that has already been reshaped by divorce and distance and loss. There is also something worth saying about the gift she is planning for the 21-year-old. She specifically describes it as something aligned with her niece's interests and hobbies. That level of thoughtfulness, taking the time to pick a gift that reflects who the person actually is and what they actually love rather than something generic and forgettable, is an act of love in itself. It means she pays attention. It means she remembers. It means she has been present enough in this young woman's life to know what would make her eyes light up. That is the kind of gift that says, I see you, I pay attention to you, you matter to me as a specific and individual person. And that gift means something precisely because of the relationship behind it. You cannot manufacture that kind of gesture for someone you have not spoken to in 3 years, because the gift would be hollow without the connection to back it up. It would be a performance of closeness rather than an expression of it. Now let us think about this from the 19-year-old's perspective for a moment. She chose low contact. She made that decision during one of the harder periods of her young life, when everything around her was shifting and she needed to draw some lines to protect herself. She has not responded to holiday or birthday messages. She has maintained that distance consistently for nearly 3 years, which suggests it was not an impulsive reaction but a considered choice she has continued to stand by. If she suddenly received a birthday gift from her aunt, what would that feel like? Would it feel warm and welcoming, a sign that the door is still open? Or would it feel like a pressure, an obligation, a reminder of a relationship she has not yet been ready to re-enter? For some people in her position, an unsolicited gift from a family member they have distanced themselves from can actually feel more uncomfortable than nothing at all, because it creates an unspoken expectation, a social weight that they did not ask to carry and now have to figure out how to respond to. I also think it is worth acknowledging that the 19-year-old may have her own journey to go on, and that journey is not yet finished. She made a choice at some point in her teenage years, during a painful and disruptive time in her family's life, to pull back. That does not mean she will feel that way forever. People change. Perspectives shift. The things that felt necessary at 17 can look different at 22 or 25. The door that our narrator has left open matters enormously, and the fact that she left it open without resentment, without making the girl feel guilty for the distance, means that if and when the 19-year-old is ready to come back, she will be welcomed without strings attached. That kind of patient, unconditional love is actually a gift too, even if it never gets wrapped in paper and tied with a bow. And here is the thing that I think a lot of people miss when they think about family dynamics and fairness in situations like this. Relationships are not static, they are not fixed, and the way you honor them should reflect where they actually are right now, not where they used to be, and not where you wish they were. The relationship with the 21-year-old exists in the present tense, actively, warmly, with shared experiences and genuine connection being built week by week. The relationship with the 19-year-old exists in a kind of hopeful pause, respectful, patient, but quiet. Treating those two situations as identical would actually be less honest, not more fair. It would be erasing the reality of both relationships in order to satisfy an abstract principle that does not quite fit the actual human situation in front of you. So let me be completely clear about where I land on this. Our narrator is not the bad guy here. She is not being unkind, she is not playing favorites out of spite, and she is not abandoning anyone. She is doing something that takes a lot of emotional intelligence and self-awareness. She is recognizing that different relationships call for different responses. Giving the 21-year-old a thoughtful, personalized birthday gift is an expression of a real and living relationship. Not sending a gift to the 19-year-old is a way of honoring the boundary that the 19-year-old herself asked for. Both of those things are acts of respect. I also want to say something directly to the fairness anxiety that is driving this question, because that part really resonates. When your brain is wired to run fairness checks constantly, it can feel genuinely distressing to treat two people differently, even when the differences are completely justified. The discomfort is real even when the logic is sound, and that gap between knowing something is right and feeling okay about it can be its own kind of exhausting. But fairness is not sameness. Fairness is giving people what the situation actually calls for. And in this situation, what the 21-year-old calls for is a gift that celebrates her and the relationship she has worked to build. What the 19-year-old calls for is exactly what she asked for, which is space and continued openness if she ever wants to come back. The bottom line is this. Our narrator has been thoughtful, gracious, and emotionally generous throughout this entire situation. She respected a painful boundary without bitterness. She has kept the door open without pressure. She has continued to build a beautiful, genuine relationship with one niece while quietly rooting for the other from a distance. She does not owe anyone guilt for celebrating the relationship that actually exists. Give the gift. Keep the door open. And stop second-guessing yourself, because you have been handling this with more care and love than most people would. Her ex got a tattoo of her favorite movie character and she called it sweet. We called it a red flag. A man waits almost a year, breaks off all contact with his ex, and then resurfaces with a tattoo of a dragon on his body, and his ex-girlfriend thinks that is sweet. The friends who are trying to warn her are losing their minds. And honestly, I understand why. So let me walk you through exactly how this went down, because the details here matter. Our narrator and their friend, call them friend 1 and friend 2, have been watching their other friend, call her friend 3, navigate the aftermath of a breakup that happened almost a full year ago. This was not a quick fling either. This was the kind of relationship where someone leaves a mark on your life, where their favorite movies become part of your shared vocabulary and their preferences start to feel like your own. The kind of relationship that, when it ends, leaves a strange hollow shape behind it. For about 5 months after the breakup, there was no contact, which is genuinely a good sign. That is the healthy timeline. That is someone following the no-contact rule and letting things breathe. Both people getting the space they need to start sorting through the wreckage. 5 months is long enough to make you believe that maybe things are actually moving forward. Maybe everyone is going to be okay. But then, out of nowhere, the ex reappears. And he does not reappear with an apology, or a calm check-in, or even a casual text. He reappears with a tattoo. Not just any tattoo. A tattoo of Toothless, the dragon from How to Train Your Dragon, specifically because it is one of Friend 3's favorite movies of all time. Now, this is the kind of detail that sounds almost romantic when you say it out loud quickly. He got a tattoo of something she loves. But when you slow down and actually think about it, the picture starts to look very different. Imagine sitting across from someone you once loved, and they pull back their sleeve, or lift their shirt, or show you their arm, and there it is. Permanent ink. Something pulled directly from the interior of your own heart, now living on their skin. That moment is engineered to feel overwhelming. It is designed to short-circuit your critical thinking and go straight to your feelings. This is a man who broke up with her, went silent for 5 months, and then decided that the right way to re-enter her life was to permanently mark his body with something deeply connected to her identity and her passions. That is not a love letter. That is a possession marker. I need to pause here for a second. Because a tattoo does not wash off. A tattoo of your ex's favorite thing, gotten after 5 months of silence, is not a romantic gesture. It is a statement. And the statement is, I am still thinking about you in a way that has become permanent. So friends 1 and 2 sit down with friend 3 and try to explain this. Picture that conversation. The careful way you choose your opening words when you know the topic is going to land badly. The way you watch your friend's face for signs that something is getting through, and the slow, sinking feeling when you realize it is not. Friend 3 is not budging. She thinks it is sweet. She genuinely, sincerely cannot see what her 2 closest friends are trying to show her. And these are not strangers telling her this. These are not jealous people with an agenda. These are people who care about her, who have watched this whole situation unfold from the very beginning, who were there when the breakup happened and who have been quietly worried ever since. And they are genuinely alarmed by what they are seeing. The conversation goes on for 30 minutes. 30 minutes of friends 1 and 2 explaining, giving examples, laying out their reasoning, trying to walk their friend through why a tattoo from an ex who broke contact and then came back is not a romantic gesture but a concerning one. You can almost feel the exhaustion building in that room. The repetition of the same points. The growing awareness that no new argument is landing. And for 30 minutes, friend 3 holds her position. She is not rude about it, she is not dismissive exactly, she just cannot get there. She cannot cross the line from this feels sweet to this feels like a red flag. Now here is where I want to be honest with you about what happened next, because this is the part where our narrator and friend 2 made a mistake. After 30 minutes of going nowhere, they lost their patience and blew up. In this case, blowing up meant sending messages over text calling friend 3 stupid, repeating it multiple times, and becoming genuinely angry at her. No one got physical, this was all over text, but the words were sharp and they were repeated, and the core message was you are stupid for not seeing this. Let me say that again more slowly. They called their friend stupid. More than once. Now I want to be fair here, because the frustration is completely understandable. There is a very specific kind of exhaustion that comes from watching someone you love inch toward a situation you can clearly see is going to hurt them, and feeling completely powerless to stop it. You have laid out every logical point. You have tried gentle. You have tried direct. You have tried patient explanation and careful examples. And none of it moves the needle. That helplessness can curdle into anger very quickly, especially after 30 minutes of feeling like you are talking to a wall. The feelings that drove that blow-up were rooted in genuine care. But the blow-up itself was a problem, and it needs to be named. Calling someone stupid, especially repeatedly, especially about something emotional, is not a form of helping. It is a form of venting your own frustration at the expense of the person you are supposed to be helping. It shifts the conversation from this behavior is concerning to you are defective for not agreeing with me. And that shift matters a lot, because now friend 3 is no longer thinking about whether the tattoo is a red flag, she is now thinking about whether her friends respect her. The conversation has been completely derailed, and the actual important issue, the ex who got a tattoo and is clearly trying to pull her back in, gets buried under the hurt feelings from the argument. There is also something worth examining about what friend 3 is actually feeling here, because labeling her delusional or calling her stupid misses what is really going on. She is clearly not over this relationship. The edit our narrator shared mentions a message from the ex that said something like I am not happy without him either, which suggests that friend 3 is still very emotionally invested in this person. When you are still in love with someone, or still grieving a relationship, your brain will do incredible gymnastics to reframe concerning behavior as something tolerable, even sweet. That is not stupidity. That is heartbreak doing what heartbreak does. The tattoo, through her eyes, probably does not look like a possession marker or a manipulation tactic. It probably looks like evidence that he still cares, that the relationship mattered, that maybe there is a path back to something she is still mourning. That ache of recognition, seeing something from your own heart reflected back at you, is powerful in a way that is very hard to argue against. That is a human response. A painful, potentially self-destructive human response, but a human one. And meeting that response with the word stupid over and over is not going to crack through it. If anything, it makes her more defensive and more likely to protect her feelings about the ex, because now her friends have become a source of pain too. And here is the real danger in that dynamic. When the people who are supposed to be your safety net start making you feel bad about yourself, you do not suddenly become more open to their advice. You start to withdraw from them. You start to protect yourself from them. You start unconsciously moving toward the person who is making you feel wanted instead of the people who are making you feel small. And if you are already emotionally tethered to an ex who is sending you messages and showing you tattoos of your favorite things, and your friends are calling you stupid, who do you think starts to look like the safer option? The friends just made their own job much harder. So here is my honest verdict on this whole mess. Our narrator and friend 2 were right about the tattoo. Completely, obviously, 100% right. A tattoo of your ex's favorite character, gotten and then revealed after 5 months of no contact, is a manipulation tactic dressed up as a romantic gesture. It is designed to make her feel special and chosen and thought about, in a way that is engineered to pull her back. Recognizing that and trying to warn a friend about it is an act of love. That part is not in question. But the way they delivered that truth was wrong. Calling someone stupid is never an effective way to help them, and calling them stupid repeatedly over text is even worse. It leaves a paper trail of cruelty. It gives the other person something to screenshot, something to hold up and say look what they did to me. And more importantly, it actually moves the friend further from safety, not closer to it. If their goal was to protect friend 3 from getting pulled back into something potentially unhealthy, this blow-up made that outcome more likely, not less. That is a serious failure of execution, even with the right intentions underneath it. Going forward, the move here is to apologize for the specific language, not for the concern, and not for the position. A real apology sounds like I should not have called you stupid, I was frustrated, but that is not okay. I still think the tattoo is a red flag and I am still worried about you, but I want to talk about this in a way that does not make you feel attacked. That kind of apology repairs the relationship while keeping the truth on the table. Friend 3 needs people she trusts around her right now, and that trust has taken a hit. It can be repaired. But it requires a little humility and a lot of intention. You can be right about the situation and still owe your friend an apology for how you handled it. Both things can be true at the same time. Drop a comment below and let me know which story hit harder for you. And if you want more content like this, a like and a subscribe would mean the world.